Step 1, wake up, really gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flaws, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up, really gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Need to hear this, but let me put this out here. Stop sparing folks. Hello, somebody. Stop sparing folks. Nobody cared when your feelings was hurt. Nobody cared when you was pacing the floor. Nobody cared when you was sliding down the wall. Nobody cared when you was standing over there with a face full of tears. You had to suck it up, buttercup. But then when it come to other folk feelings, here you are, want to tiptoe around it, want to avoid the elephant in the room. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to disturb the peace. Stop sparing folk. Ain't nobody spare you when it was your turn. Give it to them real. Give it to them raw. Give it to them uncut and uncensored. This is exactly what it is. This way you had me messed up at. Huh. Yeah. I ain't playing with nobody this season, baby.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Hello, good morning, YouTube. Happy Thursday. We are sliding right on into the week. I got some things going on. So Monday is going to be a day that we're not going to have a live. I've got another engagement. I was called, so I will not be available on Monday to do a live. So we're going to try, and then Sunday I'll do a live in the morning. And the rest of the day I'm off. I've got traveling I've got to do. And then everybody knows that I'll be going to Nashville, Tennessee on the 18th through the 20th. I am meeting with an attorney in Nashville, Tennessee, and hopefully a lot of good will come out of that. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys apprised of everything there. So just to say good morning to everyone. I don't know. I can say good morning to everyone. The chat's already filling up. But just Samantha was the first to say good morning to Bullhorn Betty and clan. Just Samantha says, I hope you see my comments about Banfield source being TikTok. Random lady shared that information 4 days ago saying she had no idea if it was true. Yeah, a lot of these mainstream, and that's another thing with mainstream media. They were becoming a dying breed because nobody really trusts them. You know, we realize that they are literally for, everybody's like, oh, you're for the clicks and the views. No, I'm not mainstream media. They are for the clicks and the views. They don't care about these cases that they cover. Much different from us, where we do feel for these cases and we really do try to, make a difference. And so it's awful that mainstream, and I keep saying, like, People Magazine, this whole thing where they have these law enforcement agents close to the case violating court order and providing them a mess of information. I just don't see any good law enforcement violating their, and now granted, there's not always good good cops out there, right? We believe that there are. We believe there's a lot of good cops out there and a lot of good law enforcement people, but there's also some bad apples, like with anything, law firms. I mean, right? Attorneys. We're watching Alex Murdaugh. Doesn't mean that every attorney is a crook and is going to scam you out of millions of dollars. Just means this one bad apple did. So, I guess there is a possibility of it, but it's unlikely, in my opinion, for People Magazine to have all this groundbreaking information and having this source so close to the case, unless you're paying that guy $1 million. He ain't leaking you information. I don't care who you are. It ain't happening. Ain't happening. So I've questioned People Magazine, and many of you guys know I really don't care too much about Ashley Banfield. I'm not a fan of Ashley Banfield at all. Like, if they called me, hey, can we have you on? No, no, you can't. I'll interview with Bryan, but I am not interviewing with Ashley Banfield. There is no way in hell I would. I don't like her. I don't like her. I'm not going to act. I'm not going to show face. That's just not how I roll. So, Yvonne Sunshine Jennings, nice to see you. Good morning. Have my coffee brewing. Well, hopefully now that I've been yapping so long, your coffee is done. Chrissy, PayPal me. Nice to see you. Patricia Miller, Sean Bloor, nice to see you. I'm sure I'm pronouncing your last name wrong too. You might have to give me the pronunciation of that. Wake up. Good morning. It's nice to see you. Chrissy, Murdaugh, nice to have you here this morning. Mark, Pink, Gator Girl for Life. Nice to have you here this morning. Julie, Stephanie D, Mary Thomas, she says, good morning, BHB and Club. Pray all are blessed and have truth, light, love, and love today. That is so sweet. Thank you so much. Love it. Karen Klein, good morning. Who else do we have? We have Stacy. Wake Up is bragging she was number 2. That's because you were shot out by number 1, just Samantha. But no, I did not. Oh, getting back to that, just Samantha, I did not get your comment. I don't know if you posted it in here or you posted it on a video or what you did, but I have not seen it. I haven't read my my comments. I had a lot of work yesterday I had to do after because I was in tune. I was plugged into the Alex Murdaugh trial. So I sat there with you guys through all of that, through the bomb threat and everything. That was insane. Like, the judge didn't look too pleased. I don't think anybody looked too pleased. I don't think, for whatever reason, I think it goes back to a random person, because it didn't look like anybody was happy. It didn't look like the prosecution was really happy. It didn't look like the defense was really happy. And not only that, if it really was somebody from the defense side, like, that would really give their hand. Like, they are shaking in their boots right now. They've been trying to exclude this blue jacket. This blue jacket appears to be very damaging to the Murdaugh defense. And they've been trying like hell to get it removed, so much so that they brought several objections in and some grounds for that objection. And that was realized when we heard them say, sorry, I'm trying to get back to, there it is. When we heard them say that they are objecting 403 objection on 404B, or is it 4? Is that right? 404B rule, which is the entering of evidence for the purposes to show motive. However, what they're saying is basically that although this evidence is relevant, it should be excluded because the probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. And so that's kind of the grounds that they are objecting on. So they have a 403 rule objection, and it's based upon the 404B rule, which is allowing evidence to be entered to provide motive. And so there's been that conflict. There's been the back and forth about that, and they've been really hammering it in. I mean, they've just about any defense that goes to motive, that goes to the financial crimes. Now, mind you, in this case, the defense opened the door to a lot of evidence that wouldn't have normally been brought in because of the way it prejudiced the defendant. But because they are the ones that asked the question related to the information, that has now opened the Pandora's box, if you will, allowing the prosecution now to explore that. So that's how they have accidentally and mistakenly got that the financial stuff in for the motive and everything like that, is because the defense asked the question and a witness answered the question without objection, and that left that door open, and now it's kind of been kicked in by the prosecution, the state, and now the state is they're using it for their advantage, and it's been very damaging to Alex Murdaugh. Now, the information we're hearing about the financial crimes, the information that we're hearing about his scheme to defraud, that cannot be used in the trial, so much so that, that is what, for the purposes of convicting him. That can only be used as was their motive there to do this crime. And that's all that they can use this information and weigh that on. Did they establish a motive? They cannot use any of this financial crimes as a reason to convict Alec Murdaugh, period. There's just no way. But I like the Alec Murdaugh trial. I know we have low numbers in here when we're watching it because, quite frankly, our audience, the majority of our audience is not very interested in, Alec Murdaugh for whatever reason. But that's okay because I'm watching it. So the ones that want to watch it with me are more than welcome to come over here and watch it with me. We try very hard to make sure you guys, the few things that I notice, like on Law and Crime, is if I step away and come back and there's a new face, I don't know who that is. I don't know who they are and what they are. Giving testimony on. So I've been really trying hard to make sure you guys know the witness that's up on the stand and who they are, what organization they're with, whether they're an employee of a prior employee of Alex Murdaugh, whether they are an investigator, a detective, a special agent. I do have the full entire witness list, so I'm not going to have to be worrying about misspellings and spellings of their names. I now have the entire list in my hands, so I'm just cutting and pasting their name as they're written on the witness list in there and plugging that into the system. So if you guys would like to come by, come by. A couple of other things. Oh, and by the way, everybody else that I have not had an opportunity to say hi to, good morning. It's nice to see each and every one of you guys here. But we do have a lot to kind of go over here. And a couple of the main things that are really hitting right now, and we discussed it yesterday, was Bryan Kohberger losing his job as that assistant, that teacher assistant, the coveted teacher assistant job. We heard from some of the students that were in his class, one being Ben Roberts, basically stating that, he has been kind of a bear to work with. He's constantly marking up the papers. He's just going overboard with, critiquing of their work. We found out that he was, obviously treating the females differently than the males, which goes right into his demeanor. So I've got this up here so we can all go over it. Some of this stuff is a little frustrating for me because they made sure it happened. Like they had it. It's like, I feel like this university had inside knowledge, right? They had inside knowledge of what was going on. At least from November 29th, when they started reaching out to Mascow Police Department and letting them know, yes, we've identified a car. This might be your car. It's a white Elantra. It's to one of our students. I ran the plate. It comes back to a Bryan Kohberger. This is law enforcement. This is campus law enforcement, Wazoo campus law enforcement. And so they had kind of a hand up, although they kept their mouth shut. They have a duty as well to their students, to law enforcement. If law enforcement tells them, don't, talk about this, trust me, the universities are going to follow the law enforcement, just like mainstream media does. That's why we're not mainstream media, nor do we ever aspire to be, right? So, thank you, crafty Florida lady. Nice to see you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you for becoming the newest member of this crazy place we call the Coffee Club. But I just felt like they had inside knowledge, and like the official termination came after he left the campus. He packed up his car with his dad and headed out of there. He was pulled over. Let's find out when he was pulled over, right? I want to be factually accurate here, right? We don't want to have any misunderstandings about what happened here, because of all people, if I say one thing wrong, YouTube goes crazy. I actually like that. It shows how much control I have. That's bad. Let's see what we got here. And guys, this is going to pop up, and I'm going to ask you if you guys hear this, because honestly, I talked to, let me get this down. Honestly, I talked to StreamYard yesterday, and they told me that maybe I need to try running my stream in incognito mode, because I might have an extension. I might have an extension that's preventing the sound to come in when I utilize the entire screen. So I'm like, okay, let me try it, right? Can you hear that? Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear this video playing. I'm in incognito mode. Can you guys hear that? It should start playing on your end. You guys should have a 20-second lag. You guys can hear it? Awesome. Well, maybe I have an extension that's preventing the noise. Okay, perfect. I love that. So this was on, so this is just to prove a point. This is just to prove a point, okay? This is just to show you that he was being pulled over on December 15th. So he had already been identified by law enforcement. Okay, awesome. Well, then I'm going to have to go through my extensions and find out what extension is screwing up this. So it sounds like it was an issue on my end all this time. Something I must have added, something that is preventing my sound to come through when I use the entire screen feature. So I've got to figure that out. I may have to reset Google Chrome. reset all the stuff. Maybe that'll prevent this from moving forward in the future. All right. So at any rate, this is only to establish that he was already on the road on December 15th. Okay, guys. So they terminated him. According to this, they terminated him officially on December 19th, some 4 days after he already had left campus. I really don't believe the man was ever planning on going back to campus. Put a 2 in the chat if you believe that Bryan Kohberger intended to go back to his second semester of schooling at Wazoo, and put a 3 in the chat if you believe he was ditching. He was, getting out of Dodge. He was getting out of there as fast as he could, and he was going to make some kind of brainiac excuse why he could not go back. So 2, if you believe he was going back. 3, if you believe he was on the run. He said, nope, done. I'm done. I'm blowing this popsicle stand. So we got, good morning, Dixie. Nice to see you. So we do have quite a few people that believe that he's done. He's flying. He's going home and he's not coming back. I can't remember what 2 was, but 2 was not part of that, unless you guys are lagging. It was 3. Was it 2 and 3? Was it 2 and 3? I forgot now. I need to write this stuff down. It's too damn early, and I'm literally working on my second cup of coffee, and it's not a big cup of coffee. It's a standard cup of coffee. It's not a Bullhorn Betty cup of coffee. Yes, I'm using different coffee mugs because my coffee mugs are dirty, and I have not washed my coffee mugs. Don't tell anybody. Yeah. So, like, for me, I truly believe that we've talked about this a lot, that he actually went to, me personally, I believe he went to DeSales University. I don't think he realized when he was going to college at DeSales that this was where he was going to go. I think it was the interest when he was learning about BTK. I think that's when he realized, this is just psychology. This is just a theory. This is all speculation. This is not based upon any relevant facts that I've seen. This is just kind of gut instinct for me, problem solving this for me, and how I kind of believe it went. Now, I could be 100% wrong in this. I could be 50-50. I could be somewhere in the middle. I could be absolutely dead wrong. So it goes anywhere from being correct to being wrong and somewhere in between. Okay. But I believe that he didn't know what he was. I don't think he realized. I think he just wanted to do something. He had this problem. He wanted to show his family that he was a normal person. He wanted to, his sisters have these great educations, these great jobs. He wanted to show his family he could do it. I think that's when he decided to go at DeSales University. I think he realized that maybe there was something different about him, and the criminal stuff, sparked his curiosity. I think he went to DeSales University, but I don't think he expected to be so obsessed and find such interest in BTK, so much so that he wants to know how other people, find their victims and stuff. I truly believe it was by the time he was done with that course, he knew what he wanted to do. I think at that point, he tried his best to say, let me go out here and see if I can do this. I think he went to Wazoo, the furthest place, literally the furthest university he could possibly go from where he resided, outside of going to frickin' Canada or Mexico. He went. And where's the furthest state? Like literally the furthest state in the entire United States of America, right? Washington State. Washington State. And he went there. And I think he took the stuff that he learned about finding victims, and I think he didn't stop working. The minute he got there, he was already working on finding his victim. He has not been there very long. These girls seemingly did not know him. Even if they crossed paths, it was forced. He did that intentionally, right? They weren't intentionally going to him. He was intentionally finding them. So I really believe the only reason as soon as I realized who he was and where he came from, the first thing out of my mouth, I'm almost positive to you guys have to go back and check, was I believe he did this intentionally. I believe he went to that college to carry out this specific act. And there was going to be victims. I just don't think at the time that he was making plans to go to Washington State University, he knew who those victims were. I think shortly after he arrived there, he had already, found his victims, because it looks like all the way back in August, close to when he arrived at Wazoo, he started stalking these girls. I truly believe that. So, and he was pulled over in Moscow, which is not uncommon. I hear that people, because the universities are so close together, people, the students kind of move from one. I even ran into a student. You guys remember the interview I did with the student at Wazoo University? And he says, yeah, I live over here because housing's cheaper, but I actually go to the University of Idaho campus. So some people play that game. They live, 20 minutes away so they can save money on housing. It's cheaper over in Washington State, apparently. Who knew? Who knew? But again, getting back to this, it upsets me because they wait until they already have inside information and know that Bryan Kohberger is most likely the one. They're probably already preparing the university police for the search warrant and other information, because at this point in November or December 19th, believe me, they are working on getting that court record, that arrest record, arrest warrant signed, working with going to the judge and having that signed. Probably had already been in court, but they go ahead and officially terminate him. Why did they terminate him before he left campus? It seems that the allegations against him were pretty egregious for a professional criminology major that is going there for their PhD. Think about it. When you go to school, you're kind of expecting to have somebody that wants to teach you, right? So they're going to be explaining and being very courteous to explain what they need to teach you. If you walked into a class where you were berated every time you walked in and walked out, why would you even go to that class? And I feel like that was kind of the environment he was introducing, and that Professor Snyder, wasn't having it. He probably had never dealt with somebody like Bryan Kohberger. Bryan Kohberger was probably, making him feel like he was better and smarter than his teacher. Like somebody that has worked their entire life, made a great name for themselves, so much so that they're a professor at a university in their field. That's a really high honor, by the way. And you have this kid that's coming in to be taught, talking to you like you don't know, squat. And they probably had some heated debates about their positions. And his professor was like, no, you were wrong. And he probably got really angry at his professor because Bryan Kohberger could never be wrong, right? So anyways, coming back to this, it shows that, on September 23rd, that he had an altercation with this professor. And this is what we showed yesterday. And we're going to move on to other important news that is just breaking in the last 16 hours. So it's fairly fresh for us. This is a meeting to discuss professional behavior. He was being unprofessional in the classroom. Nobody wants to deal, like even after he gets his degrees, he has to go out and work with other people. In his type of field, it's not a field that he would be working alone. This is something that he would have to be learning skills to work with others. So obviously professional behavior is key in a class like that. I can tell you, we went over ethics and professional behavior in my paralegal classes. It was a very important part of the class. You have to learn how to speak to attorneys. You got to learn how to handle clients. You got to learn what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say, because, when you're dealing with the law, there could be a lot of violations you could do ethically, and sometimes unintentionally, but you still now have an ethical violation against you. So it's very important that you bring this professionalism with you, especially when you're dealing with crime and law. He received an email about his failure to meet expectations, and that was on October 21st. That was several days or, weeks before the murders. On November 2nd, which is kind of highlighted in bigger letters and stuff like that, that was literally 11 days before the crime had been committed. 11 days, and they had a meeting to discuss an improvement plan. By December 7th, now this is several weeks after the murder, by December 7th, they had a meeting to discuss the improvement plan progress. 2 days later, apparently he didn't like what was coming out of that meeting. 2 days later, I think he realized he's done with school. Screw them. He came there. He did what he needed to do. It's time for him to go home. He probably told his professor to go F himself and walked out. By December 15th, we know he was being pulled over twice in Indiana. By December 19th, he was officially terminated. Officially terminated. That is correct. And that was some 4 days after he was really identified as the killer in this crime. So it just upsets me because, Wazoo had this information prior to. It shouldn't have taken them till the 19th to officially terminate this man as soon as December 1st, in my opinion. And they've had a meeting. They had a second altercation before the final termination. And I think that somewhere around December 1st, December 2nd, December 3rd, he should have been officially terminated at that point in time. At that point in time, the school knew something wasn't right. I wonder how he got his official termination letter, because if they mailed it to his house, he never got, or mailed it to his apartment, he never got it. He was already in Poconos. If they mailed it to his Poconos address, did he receive it? How did they know he was at the Poconos address? I mean, he had just changed his license and his tags to his Washington State address. Or did they send it by email? Or a combination? Or all three, right? So that's not really the most interesting. Like I said, we covered this yesterday, but I do find it still a little interesting, that how they worked. Another tidbit of information that I thought was really interesting. We've been talking about this, folks. We had Steve Gonsalves start challenging the gag order with the judge. Then we heard that another TV station, mainstream media, decided to file their own motion into the case challenging the gag order. They have to have just cause for this gag order. And I think that the gag order is missing the just cause. You can't just say, we need a gag order because there's an investigation going on. It doesn't matter. I don't give a rat's ass whether there's an investigation going on or not. You have this man arrested. He is now in the courts system. It is a public trial of him. He's already been arrested for the crime. We have a right to know what's going on behind the scenes. Right now, the judge is blocking us from when his court hearings are. They're blocking us from any kind of discovery requests on. Oops, I got to get my my charger. Sorry about that, guys. Give me just a second. I got to hook it up. Almost forgot all about this. Can't believe I forgot the charger in the other room. You're down low. I don't want us to. Shit. We got power. We got power. We're good. We're good. So, the discovery, we're missing out on all that. And we, to be honest with you, we're entitled to that. We're the public. This is a public trial. And the judge, the prosecution, and the defense is literally blocking out the public because the stuff that's going on in this case, we cannot see. They want us to just wait until trial. That's not how the rules work. They have to have just cause for a gag order. Somebody has to be in jeopardy for this gag order. And so far, they haven't proved anybody is in jeopardy if this information or it creates a public safety nightmare or hazard. We're not seeing that in this case. There are certain grounds that you can put a gag order on, and it's not just because you want to. And I feel that that's what this judge has done. And this makes me very, very concerned, because us as the public have the right to this information. The media has the right to this information. It is a constitutional issue. So 30 news groups, 30 of them, 30 news outlets have asked Idaho Supreme Court to reject gag order in killing of 4 students. I have a funny feeling they are going to win this case, because the reason why they gave us the gag order on that Brett Payne affidavit was for public safety concerns. What flipping public safety concerns derived out of that affidavit? When I read it, there were no public safety concerns. Something being not pleasant for a witness in the case does not justify a gag order. I think that we're going to be very successful. These news groups are going to be very successful in appealing this gag order to the Supreme Court. Shame on the judge for making it go this way. This is putting a sour taste in my mouth. And I keep coming back to Mr. Gonzalez saying, hey, we wonder if they have the right guy. Where did this guy come from? And I have to understand those concerns. And he's being literally silenced from expressing his concerns. He's being silenced by the court in violation of his First Amendment rights. We are being silenced because we have no access to a file. We can't even see the file and see the progress on iCourt website. They have removed the file from the iCourt website. They give us no access to the documents that are on the iCourt website. And when we do request them, they refer us back to the iCourt website, where we cannot pull the documents, review the documents, or see the documents. So they're playing games here in Idaho, and I don't think it's going to serve the judge nor the prosecution or the defense well if they keep going down this line. It is a violation. I'm very confident that the Supreme Court will feel the same way. And I have a funny feeling that this is going to be successful. We have a right to know what's going on. I should not have to be sitting in Idaho to know what's going on in this case. That's a violation of law. 30 news organizations have asked the Idaho Supreme Court to overturn the gag order in a case against a man accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death. The challenge, filed Monday evening, comes just a few days after the attorney representing the family of one of the victims filed in opposition to the gag order in state court, saying it's overly broad and places undue burden on the family. Bryan Kohberger, 28, is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary in connection with the stabbing death in Mascow, Idaho. Prosecutors have yet to reveal if they intend to seek the death penalty. The bodies of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin were found on November 13th in a rental home across the street from the University of Idaho campus. The slayings shocked the rural Idaho community in neighboring Pullman, Washington, where Kohberger was a graduate student studying criminology at Washington State University. The case garnered widespread publicity, and in January, Latah County Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall issued a sweeping gag order barring attorneys, law enforcement agencies, and others associated with the case from talking or writing about it. The coalition of news organizations, which include the Associated Press, very big conglomerate, contends the gag order violates the rights to free speech by prohibiting it from happening in the first place. Justice cannot survive beyond the walls of silence. For that reason, a responsible press has always been regarded as the handmaiden of effective judicial administration, especially in the criminal field. Coalition attorney Wendy Olson wrote in a court filing, quoting the historic court ruling about prior restraint on free speech. In the gag order, Marshall said the speech restriction was needed to protect Kohberger's rights to a fair trial. More speech does not mean less fair trial. The speech at issue must be the kind that could prejudice a jury. And even when the publicity may cause prejudice, the answer is not always to suppress the speech. Other remedies like passing of time, change in venue, voir dire, jury instructions, jury sequestration can cleanse any jury taint without offending the right to speech. Despite the great public interest in the case, there have not been any notable leaks of information that would prejudice Kohberger's rights to a fair trial, Olson said. The news organization in the coalition could have published additional information about the slayings if the gag order wasn't in place, she wrote. For instance, police in Pennsylvania told one reporter they can't say whether they were reviewing unsolved cases that could be linked to Kohberger because of the gag order. And the major of Mascow told another reporter he can't talk about overall community healing because of the gag order. Several journalists have had public requests rejected or left unfilled because agencies in Ohio and Washington feel they could be afoul of the order. We've ran into that ourselves. Petitioners do not make the news, they report the news. They cannot report what they cannot gather, Olson wrote. The attorneys representing Kaylee Gonzalez's family, Sharon Gray, filed a separate court action on Friday asking Latah magistrate judge to hold a hearing on the gag order or to clarify it. The current order is overbroad and vague, wrote Gray. The gag order prevents all comments or opinions, regardless of whether they could bias the jury or even maintain in effect once jurors are instructed to avoid news coverage of the case. Gray noted, calling the order unconstitutional. The order also prevents victims' families from having attorneys talk to the media on their behalf. It would place an undue burden on the victim's family. If they're unable to have a spokesperson transmit their thoughts and opinions to news organizations or others. It's not immediately clear what the next steps will be in the case. Generally, the Idaho Supreme Court will ask both sides to respond to the request like the one from the News Coalition before issuing a ruling, though sometimes it will rule immediately based on initial requests. Likewise, the magistrate judge in Latah County could also set a hearing on the petition from the Gonclave's attorney or could decide to amend or retain the current gag order. I hope that this judge pulls the stick out of her ass and do the right thing. What she is doing is wrong. I'm sorry, it's wrong. And I had a problem with it when she did it. So this just kind of goes over the some other information. Let's see what they have here. Maybe we'll. This is what he's charged with. No sound. So we have no sound back. So we had sound on the video, but no sound on this. That's just great. So apparently that doesn't. So no sound. We don't hear it. So she's just going over the charges against Bryan Kohberger. So I'm not going to play it again. Apparently it has nothing to do with extensions. So we've at least confirmed that it has nothing to do with extensions. This is irritating. All right. So I'm not going to replay it. I'll just read the article itself. It says Bryan Kohberger arrest for the murder of 4 University Idaho students has prompted authorities to review cold cases in his home state of Pennsylvania. And we did cover that yesterday as well, that it was, oh, you're at Sweden and nice to have you in the house. Me, Marie. Well, it's nice to see you. Yeah, Yvonne, I just realized there's no sound. We've been running on a incognito. This was a request from StreamYard. I told them I wasn't having any sound, and they said it might be an extension in my on Google Chrome, and apparently it's not, because you guys can't hear that. So I'm at a loss. I'm over it. It's just not going to work. And no matter what, apparently they're not telling their people that they've got some problems on their end. So either way, let's just go over this. Officials have two separate Pennsylvania counties, Northampton and Lehigh County, confirmed that they have been sifting through unsolved cases looking for any potential ties to the 28-year-old criminology PhD student. So far, no connections have been found between Mr. Kohberger and unsolved crimes, they said. Now, this is the problem I have with that. Like, we know that Bryan Kohberger did not assault or kill even these victims in his home county or state. Quite frankly, he came over to Idaho from Washington. And whether it was a next county over, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't be looking in the counties in which he lived. I would be looking at the adjoining surrounding counties from which he lived. And those are the counties that he seems like somebody that wasn't going to mess in his sandbox. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to poop it where he lives. So it sounds like he wanted a separation. So if he's applying that, and we need to look around 2020 and 2021 time frame for him, because I believe that's when all of this started festering inside of him. I knew that there was other things wrong with him, but I don't think he identified that until he took these classes at DeSales. And that's when everything kind of clicked for him. Now, not everybody's going to, is going to agree with my assessment, but I truly believe that that's really what happened. The accused killer grew up in Albrightsville before moving to Washington in 2022, the summer of 2022, to begin his graduate program at Washington State University. It is now emerged that around the time of the murders, Mr. Kohberger was facing disciplinary action from Wazoo over his teaching assistant job. According to News Nation, within a month of starting the role, he was under review for behavioral problems and a sexist attitude toward women. Then on the 13th of November, Mr. Kohberger is accused of stabbing to death Ethan Chapin, Xander Knodel, Maddie Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez in Idaho, Mascow, Idaho. 1 month later, on December 19th, he was ultimately fired from his Wazoo job. Days later, on 30th of December, he was arrested and charged. So that's why I said, it seems like Wazoo had a hand in some of this stuff. They knew that this was a bad student, and they were trying to terminate him before he was arrested. My thing is you knew he had problems. He should have been fired from his job. Having a sexist attitude toward women, any professor should know that's not going to go away. If he's like that at 28 years old, he's been like that for many years. That's common sense. That kind of behavior will never change in a person. It won't. So there we have it. I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. Let me kick this off so I can get the phone lines open. Let me stop sharing the screen. I'm going to get the phone lines open, and I want to hear from each of you. So be prepared with your response, because I need to know how you feel about this. What do you feel about this whole entire school, him being fired from his teacher assistant or teacher's aide job? Voice. Teacher aide job. And then we find out that and also they are looking into, we can't discredit the fact that they are looking into other cold cases. Many of us asked about that, whether they're going to be looking into cold cases or not. And and I'm telling you, I fielded a lot of that. And I'm sure some of you guys still feel that way. That this was not his first killing. Who kills 4 people on their first time? No, truth is stranger than fiction. There may not be any other victims, victims that have been deceased. he may have a lot of other victims that don't know. He may have burglarized people. He may have robbed people. We know that this type of crime is kind of progressive. If we follow the psychology of it. This is Betty. Oh, hold on. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. I got to try to do something. I forgot to bring you up to the, hold on. Give me just a second. I'm going to have to share the screen, and then I got to bring you up and try not to dox you. So give me just a second. It's going to be tricky. There we go. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, it's Turkey Man. How you doing,
Hey,
Betty?
Turkey Man. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm glad you're talking about this morning, because that's had me kind of puzzled. I think that he has done this before, and I was wondering about that. I was wondering about his past, and I was watching you guys when you was at his hometown. I agree with you, because he got a good setup there at his mom and dad's place with a fenced in or a gated community, and apparently it's hard to get in where it's at. But they had to take a helicopter in. So I mean, he wouldn't mess up, like you say, in his sandbox. So I agree with you there. And I think that he's had a past. He just didn't wake up and say, I'm gonna go out and kill 4 people and do this. I think he had to well, it shows that someone does that has a trial and error type situation.
Yeah.
Normally.
But we also know, if we look back to other serial killers and things of that nature, we realize that they didn't just start killing people. It was, breaking. Usually starts with animals, hurting of animals. Obviously, he was a vegan. He didn't hurt animals, or maybe he hurt animals, and that's why he's a vegan. He felt so guilty of himself from doing that when he was a kid. That could be a possibility. But either way, you usually have the peeping Tom. They go through the peeping Tom, then they go through the burglary and taking, items from people's houses, not really touching anything, but taking a souvenir that they were in. There's just a lot of stuff that they progressively do before they actually commit an act, typically. Now, he could be one that just defies all of the statistics, but we have to at least entertain that there's other victims out there, whether they know it or not.
Well, I was wondering about his dad and him. I seen a brief of where they stopped him. I guess it must have been the police cam when they stopped him, and had his dad in the car, and they were going across country. Never did understand what they was doing on that trip, and never did understand maybe the dad or mom, that they had any indication of this. And I was also wondering, when you guys was out there, did you talk to anybody that off the air, that indicated them anything of past, anything in his past, that maybe shed light on this? Because that don't add up. It just does not add up that all of a sudden he goes and does this. The other thing I wanted to say before I forget this, but back early when he was arrested, he asked the question, "Have you arrested anybody else?"
Right.
Why would you ask that question? Was that okay? If this has happened, then I need to go this route.
Right.
That was all a puzzlement. It's kind of, it wasn't natural.
We also learned that that they took a route that they would not, that didn't, from the way it was described, is it was a longer way home than they took indirect, I think that's the word they use, indirect route home. What do you think about that? That seems to me that dad would have known about that immediately. Had you get what I'm saying?
I do, and I'm wondering about the same thing, because a parent kind of knows if there's something off, unless there's something off with the parent. I just feel like that if someone is not acting in an appropriate way or abnormal, you don't have a sense of this is not right. The other thing I was going to ask you, because I know people want to get in, and I would be if I was waiting my turn to get in to call to you, I would be feeling the same way. But I was wondering, is this where they live at, the parents? How long have they lived there? And if not, where was the home place or where they grew up? What area was that?
Sure. So, according to this article, it sounds like he's lived in that area his entire life, but he's been between two different counties, Northampton County and Lehigh County. I'm not sure where his Poconos address, if that's Lehigh County or Northampton, but it looks like either way they're looking at both areas. Like Northampton and Lehigh are not too far from each other, the county lines. So it sounds like that they just bounced between the county and what have you. But it looks like it looks like he's lived in this area, in these adjoining counties for his entire life.
Well, how much evidence do they have of him? I mean, from what I'm hearing, the DNA on the sheath is all I've really heard, and they
That's
haven't
all.
found anything else.
Let me stop you there, Turkey Man. So I think a lot of people weigh entirely too heavily on DNA in these cases. I really do.
Yeah.
DNA, yes, it's a very good tool, but in and of itself cannot prove guilt. So I think that is a sprinkle on top of the larger mountain. And I think the larger mountain of ice cream here is his data, the forensic data, them following him, them getting the cameras, them getting the footage of these businesses and homes with the Ring doorbell cameras and stuff, being able to track his moves with cellular data, other third-party data. Like many people don't know, if you've got a Google Chrome app on your phone, they're tracking your movements. That's why whenever you're going on, like you go on to look for a car, and say you decide to go over on Twitter, over there on the right-hand side, you have all these new cars there. They're following you online. They're tracking you. This is not a person doing it. It's the algorithms that they've set up. So you can literally be tracked even when your phone is not tracking you. These third-party apps are tracking you and tracking your movements. If you go into your Google Maps, there's a history button. You would be surprised when you go there, because even though you haven't used your Google Map app in a long time, I guarantee you've got history for the last week of every place you've went.
Right.
So,
yep.
I mean, I think honestly, I think that the nail in the coffin is not the DNA. It's not the spot of DNA on the sheath. The nail in his coffin is his cellular data, the third party accounts of where he was at, when he was there, when those other girls were there, what he did. I think that's going to be that's going to be the hardest thing for him to overcome.
Well, this doesn't add up, but if he is innocent,
mm-hmm.
if he's innocent, and a person is proven innocent to proven guilty.
Yeah.
But if he's innocent, then they sure have put all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah, they have. But the great thing about this is, the one thing the defense attorney can't say is that they targeted her client and only her client. I mean, we heard literally, they cleared a lot of people up front, people that were persons of interest in this case. One of the primary persons of interest in this case would have been Jack D and Jake, because that was Kaylee Gonzalez's boyfriend and ex-boyfriend and Maddie Mogan's boyfriend. So those two people right there would have been persons of interest that rose to the top that needed to be cleared immediately.
Well, it just kind of, the four never had a past of doing anything, and I'm going out and four.
Mm-hmm.
I see one and maybe the other one because of,
Mhm.
but 4. And why he picked that particular spot, I still don't understand exactly. There's a lot of things we don't understand. I started watching you guys and kind of keeping up with you guys during the Kylie Rodney
Mhm.
case. That's when I kind of come in and found you guys. But there was a whole lot, and there is a whole lot more of people out there that points her disappearing, her death, all behind that really stands out to me more than him
Mhm.
right now. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. And also, I still ain't understood you guys down there in Georgia. How come Billy Jaw is
Yeah.
Jimmy? Why ain't you held to a more of
She got away with
responsibility?
everything. Like if Billy Joe is the one that did this whole, she would have, they would have turned their back, like they wouldn't have cared. And I just keep wondering, how does she have that stronghold? She's a crackhead and a drunk. How does she have that stronghold in there with all these cops and law enforcement? That worries me.
Well, you remember the very first when that happened, the very first part of that, she was come out and said that she had killed her and put it in landfill or something like that. She made a statement toward her
Yeah.
that indicated it was in landfill. You remember that?
Yep.
But anyhow, I'm gonna get out of here because I know other people wants to get on, and you guys have a good day.
You
Talk
too,
to you
Turkey
later.
Man. God bless you.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. So there's Turkey Man called in. So I wanted to address Karen Klein's statement. Being sexist doesn't make you a killer. He has to know crimes against him. At 16, we all did stuff we didn't mean. I don't think LE has enough proof and a lot of speculation. I totally disagree. We're watching. That's why it's so important to be here watching this Alex Murdaugh trial, because you're getting to see how they're introducing evidence. You're getting to see how they're building a case. You're getting to see the results of all the investigation prior to the court case. Alex Murdaugh has a lot of twists and turns in it, and we're watching the prosecution lay the state's case out in such a way that a lot of the stuff that they have are speculative, but it's backed up by science. It's backed up by reports. It's backed up by this. They're able to enter that evidence because of expert witnesses explaining the evidence. That's how they're introducing this stuff in. Listen, many cases have had a hand down of guilt from this type of evidence, because what this circumstantial evidence does is it's building a case. Circumstantial cases win. People, oh, that's just circumstantial evidence. It's all how you present that circumstantial evidence. If you're saying, and this is circumstantial evidence, the forensic data, the cellular data, the pings and all that, that is, speculative in nature, but it is true facts of where he was around. Now, granted, somebody came here and said, you're talking about a cell tower that reaches, 2 miles, and it's saying it pinged off this cell tower. So there is a range, but I truly believe there's ranges that they can tell how close you are to that cell tower. Because think about it, the further away from the cell tower you are, what do you have? You have lower bars on your phone. The closer you are to that cell tower, the better your reception is on your phone. So I'm still thinking they can gauge that somehow of location in that 2-mile radius where he is, at least within that 2 miles or that mile or whatever it is. But circumstantial cases, those cases do win. 100% circumstantial cases win, because just because it's circumstantial evidence doesn't mean it doesn't paint a damaging picture when you put all that information, all those circumstantial pieces together. it will paint a picture beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think that's why people get so confused about circumstantial evidence, like, just circumstantial. Guys, circumstantial evidence is a lot. Don't pass it up. The circumstantial evidence here in this case paints a more damaging picture than the DNA on that sheath. However, that DNA on that sheath just puts another element of them having the right guy in the right direction of solving this crime. So you got to look at that, but don't ever dismiss circumstantial evidence, ever. That is a fatal decision to think, oh, it's just circumstantial. Fatal decision, especially in criminal cases. Fatal. What's scary is let's just see what Kitty Cat says. What's scary is what's going on in the colleges. There's other sick people just attacking students, and we know the shooting and recent attacks on girl wasn't him. I don't know about the shooting and stuff like that. I was not apprised of that. If somebody wants to send me the article to bullhornbetty@gmail.com, we'll read it on air here. That's not a problem at all. Sorry, had to drive. Missed that. It's okay. Let's just keep going. So I'm going to open the lines are back open. Yeah, and Emma, I guess we welcome healthy debate here. You can all can talk and have your opinion. One thing we ask is to be kind and respect to each other. Yes. So the only rules here is to be an adult. Okay. We don't throw temper tantrums in the chat because somebody doesn't agree with us. All opinions are welcome. We love, I don't like people parroting me on here. I like the contrast. I like different perspectives. I think it makes for healthy and great debate. What we don't want on this channel is people attacking people because they don't agree with their stance on stuff. We're all individuals. We all think differently. We all process information differently. And at the end of the day, there are no right or wrong answers here. There are none. So, because we don't know the truth. We don't have the entire, we're basing everything upon conjecture, right? Because we don't have enough information. We're being silent, so much so that 30 news organizations are suing and taking this to the Supreme Court of the state of Idaho because the gag order is overly broad and unduly burdensome. And peeing on the First Amendment rights of many people. So they're fighting that. But we definitely like healthy debate in here because it makes for great conversation. And not only that, like just Samantha, a good example. What were we talking about the other day? Papa Roger. Many people think Papa Roger is Bryan Kohberger. Just Samantha saying, well, hey, who else would know this information? How about if it was law enforcement trying to bait him? We wouldn't have gotten that perspective had somebody not spoken up and said it. It differed from mine. And we brought her up here and she got to explain her position on there and it made sense. There's no right or wrong answers because we don't know the truth. We don't have enough information to formulate a truth. Right now, the information that we do have, which is garnered from the Brett Payne affidavit, paints a horrible picture for Bryan Kohberger. Let's be honest. It paints a horrible picture for Bryan Kohberger. And I would go as far to say that we're going to find out that somebody on one of those cameras that he passed has at least a partial license plate. And I think what we're going to find out is that, him driving away at a high speed and the fact that they kept talking about how he's always alone in that car. The only other time we've seen that car occupied by somebody other than Bryan Kohberger was when he was traveling across country with his dad. And even that travel, we're questioning that. Like, why would dad have to fly all the way to Washington State University to drive his adult 28-year-old son back home? Did he drive with his son to the university to begin with and fly back home when he went there? If he did not, why is he driving him back home? It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So those are the questions that I have. Those are the things that that are being pondered in my mind. Now, we were going to start this live out, asking what, Dylan Mortensen knew. What does she really know that we're not being apprised of? We're being blocked out of because of Bryan Kohberger's need of a fair trial. It is crazy that we've had all these trials, all these big, huge trials across this country, some much larger than Bryan Kohberger's, some with much more, Gabby Petito, for example, right? Some that had much more, that are more high profile than Bryan Kohberger. Right now, he's a high profile case. This is a high profile case. Everybody's talking about this across the world, across this nation, across social media, across mainstream media. This is a hot topic of conversation, but it's not the most famous case in the world. And even the most famous case in the world didn't have a gag order on it like this. This judge is wrong. She's a female, so she's going to fight with it because women, when we think we're right, we're right. She's wrong. What she's done is wrong. And she could, correct her error, or the Supreme Court will do it for her. And I can tell her personally, and she already knows this, you would rather adjust your ruling than having a higher court wag their finger at you. Having a higher court overturn your ruling is one of the most embarrassing things, in my opinion, a judge can have done. So in my humble opinion, this judge, which I believe is a great judge, she needs to realize that there is the need of the public. What she's doing to the people in and around this case is unconstitutionally wrong. So she needs to adjust and amend her gag order. And I would behoove her to do it before this goes to the Supreme Court. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it's all these little, things that are dwindling away. You don't want, a lot of people don't realize this. And I talk about it all the time on here. The whole thing about setting precedent, right? Precedent. You hear me about talking about precedent. And I always talk about that because, our Google attorneys, the people that don't understand the law, many of you guys do it. And it's not disrespectful to you guys, but what I'm trying to say is when you go and Google a Florida statute or to find something, there's case law that dictates that. So when you're reading that, you are thinking it goes one way. But when you look how the courts have ruled on it in the past, you realize that what you're reading contradicts what you're thinking. So that precedent is very important. That case law is very important. So I hate it when anybody has to take this stuff to like the state Supreme Court, because now you're setting new precedent. And I hate new precedent. Every time because what happens is you have somebody in the 2nd DCA, District Court of Appeals, and you have somebody in the 4th District Court of Appeals, and you have conflicting orders, conflicting rulings in the same state. So that's where it creates this cloud. So now you have to have one rule in the 2nd DCA, and then you have to follow a different rule in the 4th DCA. It's very confusing. So we really want to keep this stuff out of the Supreme Court as much as possible, because we just want judges to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. We don't want to have to make them do it because they're forced to do it by court order. And again, that's going to be, since it's going to the appeal, the people above this lawyer, they're appealing this decision. They're going to the courts above her to get an order to reverse her court order below. And that's going to set precedent from this point forward. That means the next time they really need a gag order, they're going to be easily overturned on that gag order, because now they have the Supreme Court in that DCA already ruling on the very facts. And it's going to cause problems in the future. So in an effort to stop that, the judge should just modify her order to be compliant with the Constitution of her state and the United States, and make it, lessen it, make it where it's not, hindering people's abilities to the freedom of speech, but also not being unduly burdensome and being overly broad. You can't just any and all people. You can't do that. So she can probably gag order the witnesses and the prosecutor and the defendant and the defense. But, and that's got to be, you need to use that gag order power with prudence. And I just feel like she just went over and above what she had authority to do. So I really do hope that the 30 news organizations, that is very powerful going into an appeal process, having 30 news organizations. That means that they are, those 30 news organizations are funding this, because to be honest with you, she's costing these news organizations millions of dollars with this gag orders, millions of dollars. She's only costing me thousands, right? But she's costing these news organizations literally millions of dollars by withholding this. This is now starting to hit their pocketbook. This is a major case and people want to know what's going on. And she is literally shackling the entire United States from speaking about it. That is unconstitutional. That is literally the most unconstitutional thing you can do. And it worries me about her ability to handle this case moving forward because of this very specific issue. You can't protect one's rights by violating somebody else's rights. That's not how it works. So again, curious how you guys feel about this. Maybe you have no feeling about it at all. If you have a feeling about it, call into the number right next to my face and we can have a discussion about it. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about the constitutional issue? Let me ask you this. By a show of 1 and 2, don't start hitting it yet. Do you feel like her order truly is a violation of the Constitution? If you believe it is, put a 1 in the chat. If you do not believe it is, put a 2 in the chat and give me a not a long paragraph. You can't do that, but just the reason why you feel that this order is appropriate for this particular case. Just a little something in there. So Sword of the Spirit, I'd like an explanation for your 2. So there's a lot of people here that believe that this is definitely a violation of the Constitution. I got it. But there are a few that don't. So I'd like to find out the reasons why. Maybe I'm not thinking of something. Trigger happy. The protection of the case is principle, but at what cost? Trigger happy. You understand that there are that, and this is just where I understand where you're at, but at what cost? So you think that his rights supersede the First Amendment to, like, his rights to a speedy trial and stuff are like the 14th Amendment. She's violating everybody's, like, she is stopping the entire conversation about Bryan Kohberger across the United States. And you think she has that, she should have that power. You see what I'm saying? That's the perspective I'm getting. So Sword of the Spirit says 2, because, and this is because they should be able to simply keep their mouth shut until the trial. Why the need to talk? Because there is something called freedom of press. There's something called public. This is a trial of the public. Like, this is his trial, a public trial. They can't hinder people from talking about a case. This has been going on for 200 years. And all of a sudden, this judge thinks that her case is more special than the 200 years of cases before her. So, yeah, okay, well, that's good perspective. Why they need to talk? Because people have a right to. That's why. It's afforded to us in our Constitution. That's why. So Mommy of 5, another 2, just curious about that. Let's see what Kimberly says. Wouldn't that be big evidence against him if it was Murphy's hair they found in his apartment? Yes, it would be. It would be. And they should have, quite frankly, they should have those, at least the preliminary results on that perceived pet hair out. Now, granted, I don't believe that the prosecutors, the defense, and stuff like that should be coming out and telling us about their evidence and stuff like that. But this is more focused on everybody else. This is not focused. This is more focused on like Gonzalez family, talking about it, us getting the public record. Okay, getting the documents from the docket that we're entitled to. She's taken us off that as well. We can't even see. I can't type in Bryan Kohberger's name and know when his next court date is. She's got this so removed. She removed it from the entire I-court system. You can't even see what filings have been filed in this case. That, to me, is overly broad and unduly burdensome. Now, I get some people's, the two people that did respond about, the case is important, but there's also remedies in the Constitution to remedy those issues. One, change of venue, right? They can change the venue. If they feel he's prejudiced in Latah County, they can literally change venue and put him in a different county to have this trial, one that may not have as much information. So I don't see where these things would prejudice the case at all. We would be more informed, but not everybody's on social media. Not everybody watches TV. And you only need to find 12 to 18 jurors for a case like this. Out of everybody, the millions of people in the states, you only have to find 12. So that's the reason why. But I'm interested in finding this. We'll keep you guys up to date on this particular case. We'll keep you up to date on how this is proceeding through the appellate process on this gag order. But I would think that this is something that needs to be addressed. I've got an unknown caller. We'll see who this is. This is Betty. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, this is Betty. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
I think that you're a violation of the
Told ya. Listen, little old lady, go to bed. All right? Go to bed. I do not violate the Constitution. But keep trying. Oh, we got a troll. She's not getting enough attention. She had to say hello. You gave yourself away. All these, you know what? I got to tell you, these little persnickety older women, and you can tell she's sitting at home, old as hell. This is Betty.
Hi, Betty. I have a question.
Who are you and where are you calling from?
I'm kind of your neighbor. I'm in St. Pete.
Oh, nice. So what's your question?
Yes. My question is, I'm listening to them talking about the gag order. Is there any way a judge can, put certain restrictions on the gag order?
Yes, absolutely. She can make it so right now they're saying it's overly broad, like it's too encompassing. So she just needs to limit the scope of it, and it'll be a valid gag order, in my opinion. She just needs to limit it a little bit. She can't hinder people that have like right now, the Gonzalez family. Let's think about them. The only thing that they have ties to it is their daughter was one of the victims, but they're not witnesses in the case. They have no useful information related to Bryan Kohberger's conviction or whether he's innocent or guilty. They're literally removed from the case outside of them being tied by it being their daughter as one of the victims. They are included in this gag order like that. I have never heard it going that far out of the immediate case.
See, and I was never aware. I don't know that much about actually, I know nothing about gag orders, so I didn't know how uncommon that was.
We get gag orders, fairly, but it seemed like this gag order was attached really, when you hear how it was done, it was attached to the investigation. When will law enforcement be fully done with their investigation? And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not justification for this type of gag order is to allow he has been arrested. He is going to court. They're having motion hearings that the public is completely unaware of because we have no access to a docket. I mean, this is really this is egregious of a gag order. I mean, this is the most
Right, and
egregious
that's
gag order I've ever
sorry.
seen.
Absolutely. And, all you ever hear from the other side is, and I respect this, is that you don't want to damage the prosecution.
Well, actually, this is all set up to protect the defendant in his defense. They're basically their standing is, we don't want to poison the jury pool, but it's like, this is a case that is well known around the country and around the world. You can't put gag orders like that. The public, the information to the public, and the freedoms of speech and press are paramount to our society. And this judge has basically blocked both out.
So do you think we'll hear something soon from the judge?
Yeah, I do. I think the judge is going to do one of two things. She's going to not bring this before her court and just let the above court rule on it. Or she's going to bring it back and realize that, maybe I should look at this and adjust it, modify the order to be more in line with the law. That's what they're asking. Like, gag orders are useful, and I'm not disputing that a gag order needs to be used in this particular matter. But the gag order is so large and so encompassing that it violates law because of how unduly burdensome it is and how far it stretches.
Right, I agree.
So I think if she just limited it to, the case, limited it to the evidence, limited it to the prosecution and the defense, I think that if they just limit it, reduce the scope so it's not all encompassing, I think it would be more in line with the spirit of the law than it is right now.
Yes, I agree.
So,
well, thank you so much, and make it a great day.
Yeah, you too. God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that's really all it is. So I mean, for everybody to know, you guys will come out here and watch me. So I'm very fair. I'm very knowledgeable. I'm not saying the gag order needs to be completely, thrown out. I'm not saying, but it is so largely encompassing that it really is a violation of the law. She needs to make it, parse it down so it's conformed to the law. This is Betty. How can I help you?
Hi, Betty. I was laying here.
Who's this and where are you calling from?
This is Suzanne from California.
Oh, Suzanne from California. Thanks for being up with me so early.
Well, I was laying here half asleep and that little old lady called. And I just started laughing. I thought that was so funny.
I can tell you I'm not in violation of anything. They keep trying to say I am. The haters, they try. They go back 20 years and say, oh, look at her. And it's like, 20 years ago.
She needs to practice a little bit more. She didn't do that very well.
She didn't do that very well. But I even said, when I see unknown callers, we already know it's a toss of the coin, whether it's a troll or a legit person.
Yeah, I just had to laugh out loud to myself here in my little apartment. Anyways,
you know what's crazy? This is why I say little old lady, and it's not that I love my little old ladies in here, but here's what it is. It's because the majority of the women that attack me are 65 years or older, and they're white women.
Wow.
And those, I'm just saying that's demographics. That is the truth. These women that they just absolutely hate me, and they hate me before my political stance. And I that is really what it comes down to. And it's really disgusting.
Yeah, it is disgusting. I'm a little old lady and I love you. So.
Oh, well, I love you too. I love the ones that love me, but the ones that call and harass me for no reason, and not only that, but seriously, get a better education. Like you've got nothing better to do than call talk shows on YouTube. Maybe you should be opening that book and learning the law.
I agree with you on the gag order. I think she didn't think it through before she did that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there'll be a change. But can I ask you a question on the, now drew a blank, the trial that's everybody's watching?
Oh, Alex Murdaugh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I had a, excuse me, I had a epiphany yesterday because I've been watching it every day.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good old boys in that trial.
Yep.
Everybody knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not very good.
No, it's not. And and even with them having it Colleton County Courthouse, they had to remove the Murdaugh's family or photos that his predecessors, his family, his great grandfather, his grandfather, his father, all solicitors of Low Country, all having photos inside that very courtroom he's being tried. But I think what it is that people are tired of the Murdaugh stigma. And I think now that they know that their house of cards are crumbling, they're all like, just shaking their, like, I felt bad for that Crosby guy, Ronnie Crosby, because he looked like a really nice attorney, but he's just dumbfounded. Like, how can this stuff have gone on under our nose for all these years? And nobody knew anything.
And, it's on both sides.
Yes.
Now, when I say good old boys, there's some of them that are good old boys.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. Mm-hmm.
But it's on both sides, and they're fed up with it. I mean, that's just really, really, really sad. That's almost worse than that attorney that you just spoke of when he had to stand, testify against Murdaugh.
Yeah, that had to have been hard for him.
I hope this comes out right.
Yeah.
That was almost worse. That was almost worse than testifying against your own family.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could see the discomfort on his face. And I think the best way to describe Ronnie Crosby is disappointed. Like, he had such a disappointment on his face because this was somebody that he probably looked up to. I mean, you got to think this was
exactly.
Yeah, and
that was
his family could do no
friend,
wrong.
One of his best friends.
Yeah, and can you imagine being so close with somebody to know them for 15 plus years and know that they've stolen money from you to like millions of dollars, because those are the attorneys that had to pay all that money back. He stole from them.
Yeah, they did have to pay it back. That was more distress on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the attorneys from the other side, not the prosecution side, the other side, he was had someone on. I'm not an attorney, obviously. I don't know the wording. He was questioning somebody,
mm-hmm.
and he accidentally called him by his first name. Now, this is somebody from the other side.
Wow.
And he was questioning someone on the prosecution side. And he accidentally called him by his first name. That's when I had the epiphany. Oh, my gosh. This is a big old family trying each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
how do you feel? I got you on here. You seem like you seem pretty in tune to all of this. And how do you feel about the entire Murdaugh family being on one side of the courtroom behind Alec, which is accused of some really disgusting stuff?
What do you mean?
So, like Buster, Alec's sister, his brothers, everybody are on his side of the courtroom and not on the states where Maggie and Paul, they're seeking justice for the victims, and here's the entire family behind.
Oh, yeah. That is weird because it's almost like they're standing up for him.
It does, and it's very upsetting for me to see.
Personally. And Buster, I keep catching Buster laughing and joking around while he's sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems
Maybe that's why he was leaving everything to Buster.
Right.
Buster was the surviving heir. Like he was trying to have this plot where he unalived himself and everything else. And then boom, here he was going to leave Buster, the $10 million life insurance. He was the only person he looked out for this entire thing was Buster, like his wife. And we're hearing from these attorneys and this is the other thing, that these attorneys knew what he was doing was illegal as hell. And they turned the other cheek because they thought he was trying to hide assets because he had this boat accident. Again, these are well equipped. That is illegal as hell.
Yeah, yes.
And they were turning a blind eye. Like, what did they think was going to happen? They were sticking their necks out, even so much so that they knew that what he was doing right in and around this time. Everybody was like, "Oh, feeling he's hiding his assets, hiding his assets." That's illegal. You're a law firm.
And guess what? Guess who brought it all out? The two secretaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why he had a problem with that secretary. What was her name? Hold on, I got it right here. Her name was...
Well, there's two of them.
Yeah, but no, his was the direct Annette Griswold. That's it.
Oh,
Annette
yeah.
Griswold. That was the one right out by his door.
Said, I've had enough. She let him have it.
Yeah. Sounds like he didn't treat her very well. I mean, it sounds like, there were some moments of
he was rude to her.
Yeah.
He was very rude to her. The way he would talk to her and tell her to get out or give her a dirty look.
I remember I was in a room. We had about 3 attorneys there. And we had the whole, legal department there. We were talking about a specific case, and we had to it was a tough case. So everybody needed to bring their thoughts and minds, to the case. That's why we had the round table to discuss the case with the paralegals and the attorneys and stuff like that to strategize. And I remember there was one attorney there. He was the head attorney for our office, but he didn't really do anything. He was just the face of the law firm. And so everything, like, we literally had to write his entire argument out so he could read it verbatim in front of the judge. That was the kind of attorney he was. He didn't really want to think for himself. And so we were all talking about that. I can't remember what he said, but he looked over at me or something. And I was talking to another attorney, and he told me to shut up or something like that in front of all these people. Now, mind you, I'm the senior paralegal for the discovery department. I do training for interns and things like that. They go through a rigorous training. I did the training program there and all this other stuff. And he turned around. I can't remember if he told me to shut up or what he told me. And I remember quite, just having my mouth and, just quieting down. And I remember after that meeting, I walked into his office, and everybody in that office knew I was pissed. I slammed his door, and I don't know what I said to him, but I basically said, if you ever talk to me like that in front of people again, you and I are going to have some major problems. And I turned around and I walked out of the office and slammed the door again and went back and started working. And people think that I am the way I am. I am what you see is what you get. It didn't matter. And I remember the next day I come to my office, to my desk, and there is a bottle of Scotch whiskey and an apology card on my desk. I was a hot mama, and I would not talk to this attorney the entire day.
He never did that again, though, did he?
I don't even drink Scotch whiskey, so I ended up passing it on. I ended up, paying it forward. I
he didn't do that again, did he?
Yeah, but I have a problem with people talking to me like that. Like but don't think I'm a freaking rug.
No, just because I don't have the education that you have, or I'm not an attorney or blah blah blah. That doesn't give a person the right to top down a person,
right?
Especially man to woman.
Right.
That does not go very well.
Oh, I agree. 100%. That's just it's sad.
And that's exactly the attitude that this lady had on the witness stand. Now, doing it opposite, I think it was the housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Man, she was. I know he took her aside and said, "Now look, you better do this." She was threatened. I could see
was
that all
scared.
over her
Yes,
face.
that is what I think 90% of the audience felt at that time was.
She was crying the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, she was, and not only that, but even when they were trying, like you could tell she was so frazzled. Like he's pointing out, she had an aerial shot of the house, and she was talking about the ATV being moved from the smokehouse and brought up to the main house. And so she was looking at the picture, and he's like, "What's that down in the corner?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't know." And he's like, "So would you tell me where the smokehouse would be on the map?" And she's like, "Oh, it's right here." And that was what he was trying to point to. And he said, "So where was the ATV at the time?" And then she kind of got back, but you could tell she was nervous. She was
frazzled. And it wasn't, some people are frazzled like I would be getting on a witness stand, because that's just not my cup of tea. I'd be very, very nervous, and I'd probably be crying, because not that I had done anything wrong, just that I was scared to say the right thing. But her crying, her despair was she had been threatened.
Yeah.
I saw that all over her face.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think we even, when there was a pause, I think we even discussed that on here. It's like, she's really scared. And I think somebody in the chat was like, it seems like somebody got to her. I mean, she was strong though. She pushed through it. She persevered through it.
She did push through, but she did not speak her heart.
Yeah.
Like
she held back a lot. She held back a lot.
Now, what do you think? I know what I think of the judge, but what do you think of the judge? Let me see if it's the same.
Well, right now, I think he's being very fair. He's thinking logically. He's obviously a well-seasoned judge. He knows what's admissible and what's not admissible. When they try to do objections, he does allow the prosecution to respond, to rebuttal the objection. But, he is, in some cases, there was times when he's like, wait a minute, there's no like, I remember when it was talking about the attorneys, this was the day, what was it, Monday or Tuesday? Maybe it was Monday, where the jury didn't come back in until 11:30. And he was sitting there talking to them about, they had the judges up there, or not the judges, the attorneys up there to see if they would be admissible in a court of law, to be able to speak at the trial. And I remember they were objecting because they were trying to, for Ronnie Crosby, they were trying to assess an attorney-client privilege there. And he's like, wait a minute, you can't assert an attorney-client privilege to somebody that's not even your client. And that was the judge. The judge proffered that. Like, he's the one that spoke that. It wasn't even the prosecution, the state, that had to argue that. The judge is like, wait a minute, how can you assert an attorney-client privilege?
I know what you're talking about, yeah. And the prosecution should have been the ones to address
they
that.
didn't have time to. They didn't have time to. The judge just started spitting it out. I'm like, whoa.
Oh, okay. Well, there's been a couple of times that he's caught stuff that the defendant side has done that was wrong, that he's caught it and corrected it, and the prosecution should have corrected it.
I agree.
They didn't catch it.
I agree.
So I think he's got a lot of wisdom. Sometimes he frustrates me because he's slow, but he's got a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, well, he has to be slow because he's got to methodically think about it. Because think about it like this. Again, it comes back to this gag order. No judge wants a higher court to basically chastise them and say, no, you got this wrong, you need to redo it. That is like that is an embarrassment for that judge to have a higher court overturn the ruling. It really is. But believe it or not, there is a tracker behind that tracks all this. So, these judges are graded as well. I mean, it's a lot of people don't realize a lot of the stuff that goes behind the scenes in these courtrooms. So it is very damaging to a judge to have a higher court overturn a ruling for them. So he has to be slow because he doesn't want that higher court overturning his ruling because it's, a mark against him.
Well, I keep thinking about the lady judge that had to oversee that young bat that ran over all those people that wanted to defend himself. She was very fast.
Yeah.
Remember her? She was very fast. So I have to keep her out of my mind because, you know, everybody has their own personality too. But, you know, I noticed that he's very slow to make his decisions.
Right.
But that's good. So
I think so. But what we're going to find out is we love him right now because he's, you know, letting a lot of rightfully so, letting a lot of the evidence into the case. What is this? Into the case. But you got to remember, he's also a fair judge. So what does that mean? That means when it's time for the defense to argue their portion of the case, he's going to have to be equally as fair and letting them bring in stuff that the prosecution wants, you know, not in the trial file.
Right.
So we're loving the judge right now, but we might be hating him.
Well, yeah, that's true too. But I bet he knows. I bet when I said everybody knows everybody,
yeah,
I bet he knows all these guys too.
I think that I don't think so because he would have to recuse himself. I think that's why he's running this case.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if he knew the victim, if he knew had a relationship with the defendant, he would have to recuse himself because that would be unfair. You know, either way, whether he's buddy with the victims or buddy with the assailant, if he knew them personally at all, he would have to recuse himself. He could not oversee.
Okay, can I ask you a question? And I'm going to apologize that it come out right. Is it because they couldn't find a white guy that wasn't a good old boy, so they had to choose a black judge?
To be honest with you, I have no idea. He may even have been. I don't know if he's even a judge in that courtroom. I've never done any looking behind the scenes at this judge, but I know that for judges to proceed over a trial, because we hear occasionally a judge having to recuse themselves for multiple grounds. One of those is that he knows either the victim or the assailant personally. But for him, you know, it could very well. I mean, this is South Carolina. We can't, you know, take away the history of South Carolina. You know, it is probable that it could happen that the good old boys are, you know, of a certain color. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but I mean, it is South Carolina. It is possible.
So that could be why they had to choose him then.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Very well.
You know, I don't know. I mean, when you're that high up in the food chain, like the Murdaughs are, I would have to presume that they are colorblind because they don't care where their support comes from as long as they got the support.
Got their money.
Yep.
Well, I've enjoyed this. I've been wanting to talk about this, but I wasn't able to get on to another show that talks about it. Justice for All. I usually call into his show.
He's such a doll. He's such a doll.
Oh, I love him. He's
I have to tell you.
Kind.
I have to tell you a secret. I'm jealous that he does better makeup than me. I am. I try to get his makeup, techniques. I mean, he always seems to be so bright and, you know.
Yeah, but since you got your lessons from your stylist, your makeup's been looking really awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we want to give a big shout out to Scorpio. You know, she really helped me. She didn't really talk to me, but I saw how, you know, I could feel how she was applying the makeup. And I'm like, I apply it a lot different than that. And so I looked at the ending result and I'm like, I really do like this. You know, I noticed that I was a little, you know, I like a little dark on the sides and lighter on the insides. And she really, I can't mimic her makeup. I wish I had her living with me. So every morning she could just freshen me up. But I don't get that. I'm not there yet. We're getting there.
Well, those photos that you guys got from there, they sure look nice on your what is it called?
Yeah, you're talking about our photo shoot. Yeah, and I had my extensions in. I love those extensions. The only problem was is it ruined my extension piece. I have to buy another one because of the shirt that I was wearing with all the sequins. It was Versace that Marissa let me borrow, and the sequins kept snagging the hair piece. So now the hair piece, I can't seem to get all the knots out of it. So it's kind of I got to get another piece. I love that.
Well, what is it called when you have those pictures on the TV? You know, you put them on your.
Are you talking about selfie? I don't know.
No, you took those pictures that you guys did, and you're using them on your
thumbnails. Oh, I overlay those.
But you're using them on your cover.
Yeah, my thumbnails. Those are thumbnails.
Yeah, they look really nice.
Yeah, I like it. I use it occasionally, but I like my ones. You didn't see that. You'll see it on your screen in just a second. My surprise looks. I like those.
Well, and I like the girl, the black girl. Oh.
Yeah.
Olivia? What is her name? That says
yeah, that's Olivia. That's Olivia Vitale.
You need to have an attitude and this and that and this and that.
Yep.
But
all right,
anyway.
Love Bug. Well, I appreciate the conversation. It was great. I'm glad you called in.
Okay. Well, you have a great day.
You too, and God bless.
You too. Bye-bye.
That's sweet. She was just a doll, wasn't she? We go from one that was just nasty to one that was just sweet as pie. I almost want to buy her a pie. Mama Bullhorn. What's shaking, Mama Bullhorn?
This is the old white lady, and I have my opinions. Let's start with Kohberger.
Okay. Do you have notes? Am I hearing papers?
Huh?
Did I just hear you shuffle papers?
No.
Oh, I thought
I'm on the patio.
Like, is Mom taking notes?
No, I'm on the patio, thanking God for another beautiful day with my coffee. Kohberger, I agree with you. Pennsylvania needs to go to the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
Not the Outer Banks, but the outer limits of other counties.
Yeah, the ones that join into those two counties. That's where I would see him making the most impact.
Well, my husband brought up something yesterday. You're in the Poconos. They need to search the Poconos, the Pocono area, because a lot of people have gone missing in the Poconos that we know. But I think he's done other crimes. I think first of all, his dad had to know all or part of it. Okay. There's a reason he went out there to drive him back, is because he knew he was very distressed, yada, 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 yada. Being a parent, I know there's something wrong with my child, either physically or emotionally or mentally. I know, so he can't deny, there's no deniability there.
Mm-hmm.
And for Murdaugh, the judge rules, and then later in the trial, he will bring up case law, and he reads it into the record that backs up his ruling, which I admire him for. And the other thing is, he was appointed by the Attorney General's office.
That's how he got there. Okay, because I knew he had to be so far removed from Alec and the family in order to preside over this trial.
Yes. And let's see, what else was I going to say? Murdaugh, the state has put on such an elaborate circumstantial case. The defense, I'm curious to see when the state finally rests, what the defense has to present other than part of the good old boys club and family members.
Right.
The family members cannot deny the possibility of him having murdered the wife and child. The fact that the South Carolina law enforcement brought forward the gun residue, the gun, whatever it's called, residue, 39 particles on the raincoat. The only thing the defense could try to disqualify that investigator with was, well, they found it in his father's house. Why couldn't he have been? It had been Mr. Randolph Murdaugh having thrown it up in his truck against his hunting gun, and would it be possible? Yada yada yada. That's the only disqualification they had of the evidence. And the other evidence, I think that people kind of skimmed over, was the lady who was the healthcare worker, aka lunchroom lady. Alex came back and on another visit and told her, "You tell them, I was here 30 to 40 minutes."
She was Miss Libby, his mother's caregiver.
Yes. And the other thing is, she said he had on white Sperry's. Now, we all know
I don't think she said the color.
are.
I don't think she definitely said the white shirt, but she said a cloth shoe, like Sperry's. What is a Sperry? How do you spell that? I want to look that.
It's a canvas sneaker, kind of like a Van.
Sperry?
Yes. And they did not find any gun residue on those sneakers.
So they're
those
like
bright-colored
joggers. They're
sneakers.
like boat shoes.
Yeah. And of course they didn't find any gun residue on those bright colored sneakers because he changed shoes.
Yeah. When do you think he changed shoes?
Clothes.
Obviously, he changed shoes after he left his mom's house and went back home. But when he went back home, the story he said is, I came back. I tried calling my wife. She didn't answer. I came back home. The door was locked. So I knew something was not right. I went over to the kennels. I found my son. Then I saw my wife. I called law enforcement. While I was calling law enforcement, I'm running back to my house to get my gun. And at what point did he have time to change his shoe?
Well, the question is, I've learned so much stuff. Whether you have your navigational system or your sports system or your music system running, it records everything. And there's one irrefutable evidence is the guy, the special FBI agent who disseminated all of the onboard OnStar
or whatever, navigational
and
the black box.
Entertainment.
It's the black
module.
box of cars. You know how we have planes with black boxes? It's the black box of cars.
Of the car, yes. And I was telling my husband last night, your stepdad, oh my God, if anything happens to me, all they do is pull out my Navi and entertainment information, and they can see every phone call, every time my car was put in park, every time my car was taken out of park.
And that was, you got to think, that was an encrypted system. A lot of the systems aren't encrypted to that, so they can get more detailed information. But this was as the attorney was saying, but this is the most reliable to this car. You know, he kept saying that over and over again. I thought that was great legal strategy, because when those jurors have to go back and review this information, that's the voice they're going to hear over and over. This is the most reliable to the information related to the data of the car. And so they're going to have to look at those timings. And I loved how, and I almost want to replay. Actually, let me see if I can replay some of the stuff that he wrote yesterday. But anyways, you keep talking. I'm going to find that clip.
Well, the other thing is, they took out the belt buckle of the Suburban.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another point they've kind of lost, is the fact there was gun residue on that belt buckle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the evidence specialist, she spoke and said the largest amount of gun GPR, whatever the polymer, that's
Mm-hmm.
it, gun polymer residue, was on the seatbelt buckle. And she even said if it was from before, it would have been rubbed off
Mm-hmm.
as many times as he got in and out of the car.
Right.
But it was still there. That would probably indicate fresh gunshots.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think they did. I think the defense did a good job at trying to refute some of her findings, saying, but you just said, gunpowder, it's not really cleaned unless you clean it. It just doesn't fall off. But I think she clarified that by saying you shed that stuff. So yeah, you could have that kind of molten, gunshot primer residue years later. But you would have to think years later, there's not going to be 38, an overwhelming amount of that located in that, because it's been moved, and every time it's easily shedded. And I think that was the point she made early on in her testimony.
Well, the other thing that it was like the earlier caller said, I had an epiphany. I can't talk this morning. The sun is in my eyes. The whole reason Alec went and got that other gun was he knew the chance of gunshot residue transferring. He would have an alibi
Mm-hmm.
because he handled another gun. And nobody is picking up on that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure
waiting.
the defense is going to hone in on that when it's their turn. The prosecution wouldn't want to be honing in on that. They're going to be cross-examining their witnesses when it becomes the defense's case. But I really do believe they did I think they did do some damage. But the problem they're going to have is that he was able to shed, even with that analysis, he was able to shed, this gunshot primer residue on his hands, on his shirt, on his pants, on his jacket,
Mm-hmm.
but none on his shoes. No blood on his shoes. But we heard Ronnie Crosby testify that it was a horrific scene, and he described basically blood everywhere, especially in that room, because they were wanting to hone in on the fact that they didn't pick up all the birdshot. And so,
right.
I almost wish that they would have taken Ronnie Crosby's shoes into evidence, because he was walking around there. And if they found blood on his shoes, but none on Alec's shoes, that'd be pretty damning.
The other thing, my mind just went blank. The paralegal. She read the letter she received from Alec Murdaugh, the apology letter.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that stuck out to me was he stated, I apologize for all the wrong I've done to everyone and the ones I love.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, to me, that was an admission.
I agree.
To me, that was an admission.
Yeah.
But anyways,
all right, Mama Bullhorn. Well, let me ask you one other question. We talked about a lot of stuff, but one thing you didn't address was how you feel about the gag order in the Kohberger case.
I think it's unfair, because it should have a shorter parameter. It should include, of course, everybody involved in the investigation.
Yeah.
You know, the attorneys, the attorneys' entire practices, but the grieving family members and news, local news agencies, that's a little unfair because we do have rights.
Yeah.
Just like that news reporter last night that got taken down and arrested at the governor of Ohio's, news conference. Even the governor said that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He was being quiet. He was at the back of the stadium.
It was seemed like
going live.
the law enforcement was the one that had the problem, not necessarily the people in the crowd, not necessarily the governor, but you can't flex your muscle like that. I mean, law enforcement is constrained by the law as well.
Well, you know, that hit home.
You're right.
Because my daughter,
Two
your
of them.
youngest sister, interviews the governor of Louisiana all the time.
Yeah. And like he said, we do this all the time. That's what he said. It's like, you know, this has been going on forever and ever. Amen. These law, like they are erroneously charging people with charges they can't make stick. You're telling him he trespassing on what? At what point did you give him a warning? First of all, you have to give him a warning. Secondly, that's an elementary school. That is public property. That is what the taxpayers paid for. No, law enforcement, you do not have a right to kick a news reporter off public property. First and foremost.
True.
And then they charged him with disorderly conduct. How was he disorderly? Because
he just went to the ground and he did not fight. He did not fight. He did not put up a fight. He did not do anything. His cameraman did.
You did right. You know what? When I heard that, I'm like ready to call the sheriff's department and find out if they're planning on dropping this guy's charges, because I don't care if there's an
I'm sure the governor's office.
We will bring the shit show right to their town. I hope they got enough room for everyone.
Well, he was getting ready to do a live for Banfield.
He was on a live. They made him stop his rush hour in the middle of his live broadcast to arrest him.
And I'm sure the governor's office will take care of it.
Well, you know what? It doesn't really matter. You know, it's becoming a problem with these counties across. You do not have the right to hinder press, freedom of press, or freedom of speech. You do not have the right to do that.
Well, your younger sister, she's in the state capitol almost on a weekly basis, right. And she's questioning senators, representatives, and if that were possible, anybody that disagreed with her questioning any one of those folks could have the Capitol Police come up and do that to her. I am very, very against it.
Well, you don't have to worry about Sissy, because if anything happened to Sissy, I pity the fool.
I'll pay for your ticket.
I'm sure a lot of people on here would. I pity the fool. All right, Mom. Well, I love you. It was nice chatting. God bless, and we'll chat soon.
Let's see. There was something I was going to bring up. You brought up the other day about something about your dad. Cutting his fingers.
Oh, yes.
He would always cut his fingers when he was cutting wire. Well, there's two instances. We had a fan business too, and we did fan installations. We paid for 5 houses with the money we paid off of fan installations. But my hobby was house flipping, and no one knows that. You know that. I did a lot of house flipping. And one time we were doing a county building. They were building a new county maintenance building, and we had the contract, and it had to be piped. And Angela was a brand new baby and I was breastfeeding her, so I had to take breaks. See, I worked for a neurosurgeon at the time. Well, as soon as I got off work, I would go to the job site. Well, I'd get her, take her with me, put her to bed in a bathtub or a spare office, and I would go breastfeed her. But we were pulling wire through pipe. Well, we were pulling wire through a pipe that the machine, the wire puller, wouldn't pull. So your dad hooked it up to the truck bumper and pulled it. And he almost pulled my entire hand up that pipe.
I remember doing something similar with that, but I was he cut out those boxes and it had all those metal pieces in it, and I was getting low on soap. So the soap was at the bottom of the I didn't bring it up with me. So I just reached into the box and put all the, soap from the box while he's pulling. And I didn't realize, but I mean, my hand was just bloody. Just bloody. I was just like,
yes.
I'm
and the other
I was
thing.
like, why'd you stop pushing? And he goes up there and goes, what'd you do? I'm like, I grew up, put the soap on it. He's like, there's metal shavings in that. You can't do that. I'm like,
But the other thing, when I was installing fans, I always said I was a size 6, beautiful, and I would show up at people's doors with my ladder and my tool belt, and they'd look at me and they'd look around me like, okay, where's the electrician?
No.
I said, I was the only gal in 3 counties that had a reason to be in a man's bedroom.
You almost made my coffee come out my nose.
But the funniest part was we were installing ceiling fans in a house, and I had your dad with me because it was very hot, and I did not want to crawl up in the attic. And he said, I'll go with you, and I'll crawl up in the attic with you and do the home runs. Well, I was down hooking up the speed controls, and he did it live. He hooked it up hot. I had a hot wire. Well, he didn't tell me. We didn't have walkie-talkies, and that I accidentally picked it up and was trying to connect the what they call a rheostat, and it exploded in my hand, and I thought I had lost my hand. I mean, it was like holding a live bomb that just went off.
Electricity is dangerous stuff. Thank God we're prepared.
Oh my God. And it hurt so bad, I had to go in the truck. I had to go outside and go in the truck and cry. And then come back in and finish the job. But then he got the walkie-talkies.
Problem solved. At least if you remember to grab the walkie-talkie. Me, I'd have probably left the walkie-talkie in the car.
But that's my chuckle for the day.
All right.
I love you.
I love
Have
you.
a good day, baby. Bye.
Bye. I'll go ahead and turn the phones off. Thank you guys, all that participated this morning in it. We discussed a lot of stuff. We didn't really discuss, like I had to change the thumbnail because when I started getting all this new information in this morning, I realized that thumbnail, what does Dylan Mortensen know? We're going to have to discuss that tomorrow because we had new information come in. They make those white painter hooded fit that is disposable. So I guess I'm coming into a conversation, but either way, the bottom line is that there are many organizations as well as the Gonzalez family that's saying, this gag order with the Kohberger case is unconstitutional. We're going to be gearing up now to run live the Alex Murdaugh trial for those that would like to support this system and see how, quite frankly, if you guys are in true crime, you need to know what goes on once it goes through the courts, how this stuff plays out in court, what evidence is admissible and why. This is a great education for you guys that are in the true crime that relish true crime, that just true crime junkies. It's not all about the searches for people and stuff. It's about seeking justice for them as well. This is the justice, that portion of the cases. is the court hearing. Is it long and drawn out? Of course. But is there a wealth of knowledge? Absolutely. Think about what we can learn from this case, this Alex Murdaugh case, that's going to teach us some things. When we're seeing evidence and we're seeing cases unfold, we're already in the back of our mind saying, oh, that's not going to be admissible, or that's not going to be admissible, or wow, that's going to be admissible in a court of law. You know, we're going to be able to see how these cases are tried in the courts. We're going to know what evidence is allowed in certain circumstances and what evidence is not allowed in certain circumstances. This is going to help us understand cases moving forward and how they're going to be handled in the court system when they get there. So all of this is very relevant. It's very interesting. And I just wanted to give a couple shout outs. I did star some people. So I wanted to personally thank Jazz King. I wanted to say good morning and keep up the good work. You're doing fantastic. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for those lovely comments. They do help. They help me, especially because, you know, I get a lot of hate, right? Kimberly, thank you again for the love and the support and the super sticker. I do appreciate that. Latida is the newest member, maybe a returning member. I'm not sure. I've seen Latida in here before. So thank you for becoming one of the first members of the day. And then we have Cooking Crime Cannabis Podcast. She reached out to me. She did some trends that I want to show you guys. And about the names in and around the time that the girls were there. We did see some of that come out with Crime Stories Obsessed, but she did an updated podcast, Cooking, Crime, and Cannabis, and talked about those trends with the names and the searchability of the victims of the Idaho 4. So I thought that was interesting. Maybe Cooking, Crimes, and Cannabis, maybe tomorrow morning while I'm on here, if you want to come here and just kind of give an insight on what you found and stuff like that. We're going to be going over some of your numbers and stuff like that tomorrow as we talk about how much Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke both knew about this stuff before. We're going to still keep driving down that trail. And then lastly, Law Obsessed. It's nice to have you here. I haven't seen you here before, but yes, you are in the live stream. So just wanted to give you a big shout out for being here and taking your time to come here and just to say hi. So I'm Bullhorn Betty. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast related to a few topics, primarily the Kohberger case. And then we kind of dovetailed into Alex Murdaugh's trial a little bit, and other things. So lastly, before we go, for those like me that didn't know what a Sperry shoe was, I did get an opportunity to look that up. For those that have never seen this before, I did want to show you. These are what Sperry shoes look like. They're kind of like Dockers, if you will. This is what I would consider Docker shoes. Dockers are from my era, but it's something like that. Why is it not popping up? Hold on. Remove. Let me stop screen. Present. Sorry, it didn't go up. So here we go. This is kind of what a Sperry shoe looks like. And for those that didn't know, this is what I call a Docker. It's like a boat shoe, a sailboat shoe, or something to that effect. So I just wanted to show you what kind of shoe she described him wearing. And we all saw the tennis shoe that was brought out. So at what point did he change this shoe and put on the tennis shoe that was clearly covered with a lot of yard debris, almost implying that it was his yard shoes. We all, if anybody owns a home and does their own yard work, we all know about our yard shoes, right? My yard shoes stay either out the front of my door or the back door. They never really come into the house because they're always filthy with grass stuck to them and everything else. So it makes me wonder what happened to this shoe, if they ever found the shoes that he was described wearing that night, or if those disappeared with the outfit that he was wearing earlier that day when he was talking about the floppy tree. So we're going to find out. You know, the defense still has, the state still has a lot to go to build their case. I mean, we're just still, they've already built the foundation and they're building upon that foundation now, but they haven't built the entire house yet. You see what I'm saying? So we're in different phases of construction, so to speak, for the state's case. The foundation is laid. It seems like it was laid pretty solidly, and now they're just building on that foundation until they have the house that they want. And then once that house is built, they're going to rest their case, and then it'll be time for the defense to build their case and lay their foundation and build upon that foundation and make the house that they want to have. So, and somewhere in the state's case and the defense case, there's the truth. Somewhere in all of that, there's the truth. And it is the jury's job to find out who pled their case the best. If they believe the prosecution, the state side, more than the defense side, they're going to rule that Alex Murdaugh is guilty of these crimes. If the defense built a great case that's more believable than the state's case, they're going to come back with a not guilty verdict. So we're not even there yet. Right now, we have a raw construction. We have the cinder blocks that have built the frame of the house, right? We still have the drywall. We still have the wires to put in. We still have the plugs, the switches, the roof, the trusses. We still have this entire house that still needs to be built. So we're just in one phase of construction. And so as they're building this case, we are going to be seeing more and more come out. Right now, there's been a lot of evidence introduced. They've had a lot of witnesses coming in that didn't give a whole lot of testimony other than authenticating the information they had in their possession. That's why it was so important when they say, oh, this has already been admitted into evidence. That means that somebody has already went there and authenticated that evidence to put it into the trial case already, where they have to retrieve it and show it to a witness. So it's already part of the trial record. So again, Alex Murdaugh, you guys want to be part of that, please come back. It will be starting at 9:30. I'm going to go ahead and put that up now. And for the rest of you guys, don't forget to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, please, everybody, be safe. Good day.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.